Baba asks us whether we are sitting in soul consciousness. And Baba says it's an effort to be soul conscious. And only when we are soul conscious, we can remember Baba. But Baba says that one must remember that there cannot be a reward without an effort. So it's important that I make the effort to be soul conscious. And you see, sometimes, I think that soul consciousness is just about withdrawing my intellect from the world, from the relationships, from the situations outside, and considering myself to be a soul. But I was just thinking the other day, yes, the thought of friends, relatives, the thought of the old world, it definitely pulls the intellect. But I think, the biggest aspect of body consciousness is not the bodily relations. It is the body itself. And with the body, there are two things that are very ingrained in body consciousness. One is gender, another is age. So you see that coming out of the consciousness that I'm a male or a female is very difficult. And also, overcoming the consciousness of your age is very difficult, because the physical age is something that you're very conscious about. And I remember there was this one brother, and he once told me that, I'm 75 years of physical age. And so it's pretty easy for me to think about death, because, and he told me very interestingly that he said, even 2 years back, I never thought about my death until 73 years of age. But today, I think about my death. But you know why? Because 2 of my very close friends left the body. So after they died, I started thinking about death. And when you think about death, then you think about your preparation for leaving the body. And he told me something very interesting. He said, sister, you people are young in age, and your age is, the physical age is lesser. So how can you talk about this gyan, and how can you think about, preparing for death? So I said, it's just that we become soul conscious and we understand that this is our age of retirement. So he said, yes, but that's very difficult, because if you, if you think about yourself as a young person, the thought of death never crosses your mind. Yes. And if you think about future, if you check this very deeply within, then you have an idea that at least, 30 years I'll live, or at least 40, at least, maybe 10, at least this much. Nobody thinks about, that I could leave my body today, and so I should be ever ready. But if you look at the whole gyan that Baba gives us, this gyan is about being ever ready. being ready to go. But can you be ready to go if you have never thought about going? So, and if you check within, most of us don't think about going, do we? So, have you ever thought about, that I could leave the body today or tomorrow, or do you think like that? It's a very difficult question you should ask yourself. And I remember, there was this one brother, and he was some 47 years of age, physical age, and he came to the center and he said, I just want to understand what happens after you leave the body, and what is the correct way to, to dispose the body so that, there we don't suffer in out afterlife and this and that. So he thought that afterlife is all about how you dispose the body. But it's not like that. But anyways, he came with that idea and he told me, I just want to know what happens after you leave the body, what happens later on. And I told him, relax, why are you so worried about what happens after you leave the body? What is the issue? What has brought you here? And then he said, my friend, and he was just my age, and yesterday he died, and he just left in a second, and he fell down, he had a brain hemorrhage, and he died. And then I thought, I kept thinking about where would he be, where would he go, and then I thought maybe he had a sudden death, so maybe he didn't find the time to prepare for where he would be and go later, but I'm still in the body. So let me figure out what happens when you leave the body. And so, I've come and I really want to know, because with my friend leaving the body, I have understood that anybody can leave the body anytime. And there is something very interesting about death, that you see people leaving bodies all your life. Yes. So you hear about them, you see them. Some you also go and see in the crematorium, they are getting burnt, those bodies are burnt. So you see all of this, you hear all of this, and especially when at this time, you hear about a lot of untimely death also. You hear about people leaving their bodies at different ages, irrespective of their physical age. Anybody is leaving anytime. But, and with Gyan, Baba talks about going home almost every day, right? So Baba is every day telling us that this is our age of retirement and we have to go. But still, it's very interesting that you never think about going. And this is very, very interesting, because we are seeing it, we know it, we are listening from Baba, but we are never thinking about going. Because if we thought about going, then the sign would be that we would be really preparing ourselves to leave. We would not be distracting ourselves in this old world. We would be paying attention to Baba's remembrance, because with knowledge now we understand that the only way to have Antamate Sogati, which is the only way to ensure that you go home and then come have a good status in Satyug, the only method to ensure that is be in remembrance of Baba and create the punya karma while you are living in this birth. So when you know this much, then why are we not paying attention to the directions that Baba is giving about remembrance? And Baba today says that most children are not even remembering 2% of their whole day. They are not in remembrance even for 2% of their time the whole day. They are not even in remembrance for half an hour in 24 hours. And most children have that chart. And why is it so? Because we do not understand that we have to go back. And I remember Manmohini Didi used to always have this slogan that ab ghar jana hai. She used to keep saying this, ab ghar jana hai. And Mama used to say, har ghadi apni antim ghadi samjho. So consider every moment as your final moment and be so ready that you don't have any pulls while you leave the body. Nothing is pulling your intellect. Your heart is contented that I've created the punya karma, I have done the seva, I have done the pursharth that I needed to do in this life. Only then can you live in peace. Yes, if you have it in mind that I have not done the pursharth and the seva that I was supposed to do, then how will you leave the body? You will leave the body in pashyatap, in repentance. In your final moments, you're thinking, I have not done what I could do. Is that a good thought to have in a final moment? So why are we, so the final moment could be any time. So why am I not making the most of each moment so that at the final moment I have this contentment that I have not wasted any time, anything that Baba has given me, and I have put it all to good use, and okay, I've made this much out of it and that is fine. But if I have wasted my time, if I have not paid attention to Baba's Srimad, then I will have thoughts of repentance in the final moments. So I must think about this thing that Baba points out today, that be soul conscious. And what does soul consciousness mean? Soul consciousness means that I am at the age of my retirement as a soul. So even if the physical age is something else, I have to be very aware about the age of the soul. And the age of the soul is I am on the stage of retirement and I have to prepare to go back. So this is something that is very difficult, because only when you're soul conscious, when you think about the fact that this is the time to go back and I am at the last stage of my journey, and now my primary concern is to purify myself and get ready to go back. Until unless you have this clarity inside, you cannot remember Baba. So soul consciousness is not about, I'm not my body, I'm not my religions, my relationships, but having this deep sense of what is my spiritual age and what do I need to do in this age. And if you are not very aware of your spiritual age, if you don't keep it in your awareness, then your physical age is always dominating your intellect. And then you're always thinking that, okay, dadis and all are preparing to go back is fine, but I'm here for another, some time. So why should I hurry? So I have time. So, this sense that I have time is actually Maya's illusion. But we don't have time, and when it's time to go back, everyone has to go back. And Baba says, every soul which is in a body is in a state of retirement right now. And every soul has to go back. Even if you are in the body of a small child, you still have to go back. So this is what, Baba calls arrogance. And what is arrogance? I think, I don't know, I have defined and understood arrogance as many things in this spiritual journey, but where I am right now, I feel that arrogance is just when you don't listen to Baba. And I think the only sign of arrogance is when you listen but don't listen to Baba. So that suni unsuni karna is the biggest sign of arrogance. And if you look at the sign of arrogance in the world also, if somebody is very arrogant, let's say somebody is arrogant about their wealth, they would never listen to somebody who is less wealthy than them. So they would have their ears closed to somebody who doesn't have wealth, because they think that this person is useless. So they don't attach any importance to that person. And if somebody is, has an arrogance of beauty, then they would never pay attention to anybody who is not that beautiful to look at. And they would just dismiss somebody who is not beautiful to look at. Anybody has arrogance of education, that I am very educated, I have this degree, that degree. So they see somebody who doesn't have that many degrees, they would just dismiss that, the existence of that soul. So you're there but you don't matter. So, and I think children, Baba's children, we have and then there is this total, this body consciousness which manifests in the form of arrogance. And I think, even if you dismiss people, no problem, because anyways, people will not take you to Gati Sadgati. So it's a sin, but not that big a sin. But the height of arrogance is when you don't listen to Baba. And we are listening to the Murli, but we are listening but not listening. Because many points in the Murli that Baba is every day underlining, we don't pay any attention to it. And just think about how much Baba tells us to maintain our chart of remembrance, and how much Baba says to pay attention on remembrance, and then we don't pay that much attention. But why? It is all arrogance. And Baba says that children have this arrogance of knowledge, that I know, I know, and I'm doing what I'm doing. And whatever steps we take on Shrimat also, they are very, very minute. So you do something, you understand some knowledge, and then you become so arrogant about it that you can't listen to and do the rest of what Baba says. Because you're playing in your mind all day, I understand this. So when you're saying, I understand this, and this, you're not even listening to yourself, that you're not understanding the other stuff which Baba is saying. So that is the arrogance of knowledge that Baba is talking about. And this arrogance of knowledge, this arrogance of the body, and this arrogance of the age, this is not making us do Pursharth. And Baba says that now you have to leave this arrogance of knowledge. And some have arrogance of knowledge, some have arrogance of seva. And whenever if you see somebody who have arrogance of knowledge, and you point out that you are not remembering Baba as much as you should, then what would they say? Okay, so I'm not remembering Baba, but can you at least have that much knowledge as I have? So they would try to cover their lack of remembrance with the ego of arrogance. And this is how this ego of knowledge will not allow you to see how much you're losing out on by not remembering Baba. And arrogance always leads to downfall, because when you are arrogant about something, it consumes your whole intellect so profoundly that your intellect cannot pay attention to things that are worth paying attention to. Yes, so body consciousness or arrogance, it makes you very lopsided, you are paying attention to one thing so much that you are not able to pay attention to the other stuff, and you think that this one thing will compensate for everything else, but it doesn't happen so. So people who have arrogance of wealth, they think that because I'm wealthy, then my health, my relationships, my mind, everything will be taken care of by my wealth. But wealth can only do the job of wealth. It cannot compensate for what you're not doing for the mind or body or relationships. And that arrogance, it makes you suffer greatly, but it makes you suffer after a very long time. And until then, there is nothing left to do. So even if you're suffering, you can't do much about it, because that arrogance has killed your time and killed your opportunity. And similarly, Baba says some children have this arrogance of knowledge that I know things, I understand Gyan, and they made it so big in their intellect that even when Baba is making us to pay attention to remembrance or seva or purity, then you just think that this Gyan will compensate for everything, and this Gyan will make me have Gati Sadgati. I don't need to do the other stuff. And you don't even consciously think about it. It's just arrogance that makes you do this. So Baba says this is the arrogance of knowledge, this is the arrogance of the body, which makes you, discard Baba's teachings. And pride hath a fall, and then what happens is, in the final moments you suffer because, or you have repentance because this arrogance didn't make you see what you're not doing, or that you're not paying attention to things that are worth paying attention to. Yes, so this is something about arrogance. And Baba today says that along with arrogance, there is a lot of lies and dishonesty. And you see, in arrogance, you lie to yourself. When you are, you are always telling yourself a version of everything that's happening, right? So there is a story you are telling yourself all the time. So are you aware of that? So you are always telling a story about everyone and everything and to yourself. So there is a version of your story, right? So there is something called your story. And when you are arrogant, the story you are telling yourself is always a lie. And you keep telling that to yourself so much that you don't know it's a lie. And then, this lies gets filled in the heart. So just think about, when you have arrogance of maybe, just the thing about in the world, everybody is saying that when you become rich and famous, you'll be happy. So this is a lie you're telling yourself. And then you tell it to yourself so much that even when Baba tells you 10,000 times that you can't be happy if you don't remember me, you can't listen to that because you've told that much lie to yourself. Yes, and then, in Bhakti Marg, we have told this lie to ourselves that if we keep reading scriptures, we are very knowledgeful, we'll go across. And then that lie is so embedded inside that you believe that even now, and you can't see that you're not remembering Baba. How will you go across? And Baba says there's so much lie that, and I think, it's very difficult to have an honest heart. I remember, there was one brother, and he had a bad divorce, and in that divorce, he had to pay 80% of his salary as alimony. Every month he had to recurringly pay 80%. And he was into a very good job, and he had to earn to pay alimony. That was the final verdict of the divorce. And when he came to the center, I asked him, is there anything that you feel you could have done better in that relationship? And he said, no. And I told him, it's not possible, bhai. You must have, you must have some regret. Something must have gone wrong, something that you could have done better, something that you think, you could have just done better to make the relationship work. He said, no, I did everything right. And then I thought, maybe, it's just destiny. And I left that thing, and I said, okay, if there's nothing that you think you could have changed, or okay, fine, if it's like that, fine. And then I started giving him the course, and then, I saw in this whole journey that he had a personality where he could never see his mistake. Never ever see his mistake. And I asked him one day, you sit with Baba and you just look inside. You are losing in life. You've lost your wife, you lost your child, you lost your family, your parents don't talk to you, you're on the verge of losing your job. And is there anything that you need to change about yourself? And he said, no. There is no problem with me. And then I just called Baba and said, Baba, bless this child, because there is so much of lies you tell to yourself that honesty and honestly checking yourself becomes absolutely impossible. And Baba says that we must, because there is so much lies, looking deeply inside, and how will you look deeply inside? Only when you sit with Baba. So, even this honesty, and in my experience, I felt that Baba gives us all virtues, even honesty. So Baba will slowly melt your heart, slowly defreeze it of all the dishonesty. So he'll do all of that. But you have to really sit with Baba with an open heart. And you have to just, make that effort. And if you make that effort, then slowly, gradually, Baba will give you honesty also. And Baba will make all the lies, melt away. That also will happen. But it requires a lot of effort. And Baba says, until there is safai, there cannot be sachai. So, you have to sit with Baba and let Baba burn all the sins inside you. Only then can the heart be clean, and then you can see within yourself that what is it that Baba is telling you, and what is it that you're doing. And otherwise, we live in this arrogance and this lies, and we don't even see. So, most children think that, my chart is very good. And Baba today says, there are children who say, I remember you all day. And then Baba says, if you remembered me all day, you would be karmatit. And you would be so enlightened. And then if you spoke one single sentence to somebody, they would just come and, belong to Baba, because you will have that kind of yoga power, and your sword of knowledge will have that kind of shine and that kind of, strength. But it's not so. So you're not remembering Baba. But how can you see that? If you can't see that, how can you correct yourself? Only when you sit with Baba can Baba make you have an honest heart, and you can, see yourself, check yourself honestly. And Baba says something very, very interesting today. Baba says there are many pictures to teach knowledge, but there is nothing to teach remembrance. And nobody can teach you remembrance. Yes. So it can only be said that you consider yourself to be a soul and remember Baba. And the knowledge of the soul is given to you, the knowledge of Baba is given to you. But then you have to sit with yourself, consider yourself to be a soul and remember Baba. And only when you do that to yourself, then you slowly, gradually start remembering Baba. Start feeling that connection and the gift that Baba gives you in remembrance. And Baba says that you also have to give everybody this message, that, give them the teaching that what is a soul like, who is Baba, the whole introduction of Baba, and then tell them to consider themselves to be a soul and remember Baba. But nobody can really teach you how to remember. So everybody has to practice and come at that place where you remember. So you see, in my journey, there was a point when I asked myself, when did I start having connection with Baba? And you see, I couldn't really point out when I started having that, because I listened to knowledge and then I tried to practice it. And then there was maybe somewhere in the journey, I started having that yoga. And then after a long time, when somebody asks you, when did you start having yoga? Then you think, okay, when did I start having yoga? Because somewhere down the line, you start having that yoga. But nobody can make you have yoga. And if you really ask me, every BK meditates differently. So the commentaries are also, they just trigger that journey in you of having yoga with Baba, but they don't make you have yoga. Yoga is very individual, and every BK feels, every BK meditates differently, and they feel Baba differently, they experience Baba differently. And my commentary is my commentary, the way I feel Baba, the way I connect with Baba. And we take cues from many commentaries, we take cues from knowledge, and then you have your own yoga with Baba. And there are some who just, they don't have any yoga with Baba, they just keep listening to commentaries like they keep listening to class. But if you keep listening to commentaries for some time, then you will start building a connection. So, this knowledge, these commentaries, this music, this song, all of it is just to trigger that innate sanskar in you of remembering your own father. So every soul has that memory of remembering the father. And these things on the external, they are just trying to stimulate that memory. But when that smriti comes up and you remember you are a soul and this is Baba, then you have that connection which only you can feel. And that is different, slightly different from the connection that everybody else feels. So Baba says that, you remember Baba, and remembering Baba is the only way to burn your sins, only way to purify yourself, and only way to go back home. So pay very good attention to remembrance, and keep experimenting with I am a soul and Baba's forms, relationships and everything, and then you slowly start having yoga with Baba if you're not still having yoga. And then Those who are having yoga, just be very diligent on this journey, because it is with Baba that we have to go back only when we purify ourselves completely with Baba. So don't have arrogance of knowledge, don't have arrogance of body. See your practice of maintain your chart of remembrance very accurately, because it is remembrance that will cleanse the soul, purify the soul. Okay, Om Shanti.